The Cosmic Librarian. Chapter 8. Time. Section 1. The Weight of Time. The library is quiet tonight. Unnaturally so. The kind of silence that settles before a storm, thick with expectation. The dim light from the hanging lanterns flickers, sending long shadows crawling across the towering shelves. Emma stands at the wooden desk in the heart of the library, staring at the book before her. Its cover is black as the void, with no embellishments, only a single word embossed in shifting gold letters. Time. The letters shimmer, as if they do not belong entirely to this moment, as if they are caught between past and future. Emma hesitates before placing her fingers on the cover. A pulse runs through her fingertips, a strange warmth spreading up her arm. The book hums beneath her touch, vibrating with unseen energy. "What are you?" whispers Emma. She isn't sure if she's speaking to the book or to something greater, the library perhaps, or time itself. The book responds. The cover shifts beneath her palm, the material rippling like water. The pages turn on their own, stopping suddenly at the beginning of a chapter written in ink that gleams like molten gold. The book whispers in Emma's mind. Time is not a river, but an ocean. To move through it is to risk drowning. Emma reads the words again, a prickle of unease settling at the base of her neck. It isn't just a metaphor, it's a warning. She exhales slowly, pressing her palm to the page. A familiar sensation courses through her. The same pull she felt when she first touched the necklace, the same silent recognition from the ring. The artifacts are tied to this knowledge, part of something ancient, something beyond human understanding. The library seems to react, as if sensing her thoughts. The lanterns overhead dim slightly, and the very air grows heavier, thick with an invisible force pressing in on her. Emma wonders, the time travelers, the ring, the necklace, they weren't just tools, they were keys. But keys to what? The book's ink begins to shift again, new words forming beneath her fingertips, as if someone, something, is writing directly onto the page. The library is not within walls nor bound by shelves. It is carried by those who can hold its weight. The book whispers in her mind. Emma's breath catches. Her fingers tighten slightly on the edge of the book. The words stir something in her, something deep and unspoken, a strange sense of familiarity, though she cannot explain why. She forces herself to read on, but a single thought claws at the edge of her mind. Why does this feel like it's speaking to me? She swallows hard, shaking off the unease. Focus. She has to understand this. She has to learn. Her fingers trace the ink, and suddenly the entire library seems to shift around her. Not physically, no shelves move, no books fall, but something in the air changes, something in her changes. A strange pull at the base of her spine, a feeling like she is standing at the edge of something vast, unknowable. Then a whisper. Not from the book, not from the library, but from within herself. An unknown whisper, soft, almost lost to time. You have always known. Emma jerks back, her pulse quickening. She looks around, but she is alone. The library is silent. The words on the page stare up at her, waiting. I don't understand, thinks Emma softly and unsettled. But the book does not answer, not directly. Instead, the ink shifts again, revealing something new, a series of symbols, diagrams, and passages that seem to pulse with their own energy. Emma leans in, eyes scanning the intricate markings. At first they mean nothing. Then, slowly, they begin to make sense. The book whispers in her mind. Time is held in thought, bent by will, anchored by presence. But to move through it is to bear its cost. Do not step blindly lest you lose yourself. Emma presses a hand to her temple, absorbing the weight of the words. She isn't just learning how time works. She's feeling it, understanding its rhythm, its laws, and the price of breaking them. Her gaze flickers back to the book. The ink shimmers once more, forming one last line before fading into the page. Again, to remember is to restore. To forget is to lose it forever. The words vanish as soon as she reads them, as if they were never there at all, but she knows what she saw, what it means. She lets out a slow breath, her pulse steadying. The book has given her enough for now, but she knows there is more to learn, more to uncover. Emma's thoughts are determined. I have to understand this. I have to learn how to control it, because if I don't, I won't just lose the library, I might lose myself. Emma straightens, closing the book with a decisive motion. The library exhales around her, settling once more into its quiet stillness. But the air remains charged, humming with the weight of what has just begun. The next day, in the dim light of the back room, as Emma sat hunched over the wooden desk in the library, her fingers tracing the delicate golden lattice of the necklace's pendant, the ring rested beside it, glinting softly in the warm glow. The book, the one she had retrieved from the library's deepest archives, lay open before her, its aged pages filled with symbols and text that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. She had noticed it before, the subtle way the artifacts reacted to her presence, but now, as she studied them more closely, she felt something stronger, a pulse, a quiet resonance, like the faintest echo of a heartbeat binding the objects together. Her breath hitched. They were connected. She placed a hand over the open book, her fingertips brushing against the ancient ink. The moment she did, a gentle vibration ran up her arm, subtle yet undeniable. The ring and necklace pulsed in response, as if they recognized her. "Why me?" she whispered, her voice lost in the vast silence of the chamber. The book's text shimmered, and a passage flickered into view as though revealing itself just for her. The necklace anchors, the ring unlocks. Together they create the path. Emma's fingers tightened around the pendant as she read. Her grandfather had left these artifacts for her. He must have known she would need them. But what was their true purpose? She continued reading. The necklace is the anchor. It binds the traveler to their original timeline, preventing them from becoming lost. Without it, one risks drifting beyond return. Emma shuddered. The thought of becoming lost in time, unable to return, sent a chill through her. It unlocks the doorways hidden within the fabric of time, allowing passage between past and future. It is not bound to a single moment, but to the will of the wearer. The ring is the key. She picked up the ring, rolling it between her fingers. If what the book said was true, it was more than just a relic. It was a tool. Her heartbeat quickened as she read the final lines of the passage. Time is thought. The path is not walked but chosen. A single errant thought, and the traveler is lost. Emma's stomach clenched. This wasn't like stepping through a doorway. It was mental, intent-driven. If she wasn't precise, if she hesitated or second-guessed herself, she could end up in the wrong moment, in the wrong century, or worse, outside of time itself. A final passage appeared beneath her fingertips, the ink shimmering before settling into its permanent form. The greatest library is not written in ink, but in thought, carried forward through those who remember. Emma froze. The greatest library is not a place? Her grandfather had hinted at something deeper, something beyond books and shelves. But now she was beginning to understand. The library's knowledge, its very existence, wasn't just contained in its physical form. And if that was true, then she held far more than just artifacts in her hands. She held the key to the library's survival. Emma's pulse pounded in her ears as she sat cross-legged on the floor of the library's chamber. The book lay open before her, its ancient text still shimmering from the revelation she had just read. The ring and necklace rested in her palms, their golden surfaces cool despite the warmth of her skin. She exhaled slowly. This is just a test. A step. A small step. She put on the necklace and ring. Closing her eyes, She focused. She needed to choose a moment, one that was clear, untainted by uncertainty, a time when she had felt truly happy. A memory surfaced immediately. Her grandfather's study. She was 6 years old, curled up on the floor beside his great mahogany desk surrounded by towering bookshelves. The scent of old paper and pipe tobacco filled the air. She remembered the warmth of the sunlight streaming through the high windows, the way the dust motes danced in the golden glow. She had been happy then, safe, content, lost in a world of stories as her grandfather worked at his desk. Take me there, she thought. The artifacts pulsed. A sudden pressure filled the air, as though the very space around her had thickened. The room blurred at the edges, and a strange shimmering distortion rippled outward, warping reality, like the surface of a pond disturbed by a single drop of water. Then, motion without moving. She was pulled forward, weightless, rushing through a corridor of shifting images, fragments of time folding in on themselves, echoes of laughter, whispers of voices long past, the scent of old books. It all swirled around her, a tunnel of existence stretching and twisting, until suddenly, stillness. Emma blinked. She stood in a room flooded with golden light. Bookshelves stretched toward the ceiling, their wooden spines worn from years of use. The scent of parchment and leather surrounded her, grounding her in familiarity. And there, at the foot of the grand mahogany desk, sat her younger self. Emma inhaled sharply, her heart catching in her throat. The child version of her, no older than 6, was curled up on the floor, surrounded by a pile of books. Tiny fingers traced the embossed cover of an old tome, her expression one of deep fascination. Emma took a cautious step forward, but the moment she moved, she realized she wasn't really here. She looked down at her hands. They were faint, almost translucent. I'm just an observer. She couldn't touch anything. She couldn't interact. This was not time changed, only witnessed. A soft gasp pulled her attention back to the child. Young Emma reached for a particular book, a thick, leather-bound volume, one that looked far too heavy for her small hands. As her fingers brushed the cover, a faint golden glow flickered in her eyes. Emma's breath hitched. It was the same glow she had seen in the library's books when she first arrived, the same glow that pulsed through the artifacts. The connection had always been there. Even then, even as a child, the library had already been inside her. A shift in the air made her stomach lurch. She wasn't alone. Emma turned her head slowly. Sitting in his familiar chair was her grandfather. His silver-rimmed glasses perched low on his nose, a well-worn book in his hands. He looked older than she remembered in this moment. Lines of age and wisdom etched into his face. His presence filled the room, not just as a memory, but something more. And then he looked up, straight at her. Emma's breath caught. Her grandfather's gaze didn't just sweep the room as if sensing a disturbance. He was looking directly at her. His eyes widened slightly, but there was no shock, no fear, only recognition. "Emma," he said softly. The sound sent a shock through her entire being. He can see me. Her translucent hands trembled at her sides. She had believed herself to be a mere observer, a shadow in time. But this changed everything. The air in the study rippled, just as it had before she arrived. Something in this place, in time itself, was responding to her presence. She wasn't just seeing the past. Somehow, some way, she could touch it. The air in the study rippled, distorting the golden light pouring through the windows. Emma's pulse pounded in her ears as she locked eyes with her grandfather, his expression unreadable yet filled with something deeper. Recognition. Before she could speak, a sudden pull gripped her body, as though unseen hands were yanking her backward. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, heavy and suffocating. The edges of the room wavered, flickering, like a candle struggling to stay lit. Then darkness. When Emma's eyes fluttered open, she was back in the library's study chamber, sprawled across the wooden floor. Her limbs felt like lead, her breathing shallow. A deep, aching fatigue spread through her body, unlike anything she had ever felt before. She pushed herself upright with trembling hands. Something was wrong. Her eyes flickered to the necklace still hanging around her neck. It had always emitted a faint warmth, a subtle glow, but now it was dimmer. The once brilliant gold had dulled, its light flickering uncertainly. Her fingers barely brushed the pendant before a sharp sting jolted up her arm, making her recoil. Then, as if responding to her distress, the book on the desk, the same book that had revealed the purpose of the artifacts, suddenly turned its own pages, flipping through centuries-old parchment as if guided by unseen hands. Emma's heart pounded as the movement stopped. New words appeared, ink bleeding into the aged pages as though being written at that very moment. Time does not give without taking. Each journey exacts a price. She swallowed hard. A chill crawled down her spine as the words shifted, revealing more. Too many jumps will fray the thread that tethers you to the present. Emma's breath caught. Her grandfather. She remembered the exhaustion in his final days, the way he had seemed lost in time even before he died. Had his mind slipped through past and present so many times that he had lost his grip on reality? Her fingers curled into a fist. The book turned another page, its warning growing darker. Prolonged stays in another time risk displacement. The longer you remain, the more you forget where you belong. Emma's stomach twisted. Could that happen to me? A terrifying thought clawed its way into her mind. What if this wasn't the first time she had traveled? What if she had already forgotten past journeys? The final passage flickered onto the page, the ink dark and absolute. Certain events are locked. Attempts to change them could cause fractures, ruptures in space-time that cannot be undone. Her grandfather's study, his eyes on hers. Had she changed something just by being there? Emma forced herself to stand, despite the overwhelming fatigue dragging her down. She needed answers, but more than that, she needed to understand the rules before it was too late. A few days later, Emma's fingers hovered over the ring, her mind racing. The book's warnings had been clear. Time exacts a price. But even as exhaustion weighed heavily on her limbs, temptation gnawed at her. The past had given her a glimpse of something more, a connection between herself, her grandfather, and the library that she had never fully understood. But the past was written, it was fixed. The future, however, Emma swallowed hard. What if I could see ahead? What if I could know what happens before it comes? Her hands tightened into fists. The library was in danger. The Veil Keepers were closing in. She had to be prepared. If she could just glimpse what was coming, even for a moment, maybe she could change everything. She took a deep breath, focusing. The ring and necklace pulsed, responding to her intent. The air shimmered, the room tilting, reality warping around her. Then, a sudden flash of the ink. The book before her turned its own pages violently, as though in protest. A new passage burned into existence before her eyes, the words deep and final. To see what is to come is to burden the present with knowledge it cannot yet bear. A warning, a rejection. Emma hesitated, and in that moment, the shimmering bubble around her fractured. A violent pull yanked her backward, tearing her away. The last thing she saw before being wrenched back to the present was darkness. A loud slam shattered the silence. Emma gasped as the book snapped shut on its own, the force rattling the desk beneath it. The lingering shimmer in the air, evidence of her attempt to glimpse the future, vanished, leaving behind only the dim glow of candlelight flickering against the ancient stone walls. Her heart pounded. Something had pushed her back, not just pulled but rejected her. Emma clutched the edge of the desk, struggling to steady herself. Her mind spun, trying to process what had just happened. She had reached for the future, for a glimpse of what was to come, and in return she had seen nothing but darkness. A warning. She sucked in a shaky breath, recalling the book's words. The past is fragile. The future is uncertain. Change one, and you change the other. Had she already altered something by stepping into the past? Had her grandfather always been able to see her, or had her presence changed the moment she thought was already set? The weight of the realization sent a chill through her. Then, movement. The book twitched, the edges of its pages glowing faintly for just a second. Emma's breath caught as a final line burned onto the cover, appearing for only a fleeting moment before fading into nothingness. Time remembers those who walk its path. Emma exhaled, her grip tightening on the book's worn edges. She wasn't just moving through time. Time was watching her back. Emma sat in silence, her fingers still resting on the closed book, its worn leather cover cool beneath her touch. Her heartbeat had steadied, but her mind raced with everything she had seen, everything she had felt. Time was not what she had always believed it to be. It was not a rigid, linear force, nor was it an unbreakable law. It was a tool, a force that could be wielded, shaped, navigated. But it was not a weapon. She had seen its dangers, felt its cost. The exhaustion clinging to her bones was proof enough. She couldn't wield this power recklessly. Every movement, every thought, they had to be deliberate. If she was to master it, she had to train. She exhaled, a determined edge settling into her expression. No more impulsive leaps, no more blind tests. She had to understand before she acted. Yet, even as she made this silent vow, the flickering words from the book haunted her. Words that had appeared for only a moment before vanishing into time. To remember is to restore. To forget is to lose it forever. Emma swallowed hard. To remember. The weight of the phrase settled deep in her chest. What was she supposed to remember? Everything? Impossible, she thought. She closed the book carefully, running her fingers over its aged surface, as if willing it to answer her. But no more words came. Instead, only a single lingering question remained in her mind. One she wasn't sure she wanted to face. If time was already written, could she change what was to come? Or worse, had she already done so before?
We hope you are enjoying our stories. Please like, share, and subscribe and get notifications on upcoming chapters and stories.